August 15th, 2026. Well, some big developments have kind of happened with this interview by Dr. Phil of David Grusch. He's put out a lot of, his big Inspector General report and all that. And of course, that went through, and then the DOPS they went through and had interviews with Ross Coldhart and so forth, and it's been kind of known. And I guess now he's basically kind of a staffer for Representative Burleson on the subject. So, at any rate, I'm going to get into that. That's the basic thrust of this video. But before I get into that, I want to make a quick little update on the campaign and all that. Of course, I think we had an unfortunate outcome in Wisconsin that Hong actually got beaten by Crowley by a small margin. I guess a last-minute surge by the mainstream Democrats and the governor got Crowley back in the race. And let me just say that I think we can blame our Republicans and our Republican media for doing this. If they'd have had the common sense to just shut up until after the primary was over and not come up with all this attack stuff on Hong until afterwards, then we could have used it afterwards, and we'd probably had a shoe-in victory for Tiffany in the governor's election. Now it's going to be competitive. So anyhow, and of course, the real outcome in any event wouldn't be that much different, other than maybe you'd have more incompetence with Hong. But at any rate, I don't want to get too much into the politics here, because that's not the topic here. Many of the people may even disagree with my views on politics here, as far as when we're getting into the UAP subject. But hey, I'm diverse. So here, I think, well, first of all, know that Dr. Phil, I had got a note from President Trump that, about when the fourth tranche of UAP videos and documents were released, got a sneak preview. And apparently Trump has kind of brought him into this somehow. And when the fifth release came out, of course, Dr. Phil was somewhat critical of what we were getting, which sort of means he's sort of putting a little pressure on the administration to produce more. And I'm not sure this isn't a coordinated plot, actually, because now David Grusch comes out and really starts talking a lot more freely about things than he had previously. Now, I don't know whether he got another DOPS approved review, or he's just decided he's going to do it anyhow. I don't think he's going to be prosecuted, let's be blunt. But, and I guess he isn't really planning on getting his security clearance back unless the president just orders it done, then, he's going to be, well, at any rate, let's get into what happened here. The main thing, I think, the main takeaway from this is, of course, the big shocker, of course, will be what he said about aliens and so forth. And we'll get into that also. But first of all, I think it's interesting. I've been debating for some time with people what has happened to the Inspector General report. I mean, after all, Marco Rubio must know what's in it. He was one of the recipients of being the ranking member of the chairman of the Select Committee on Intelligence in the Senate, and that was one of the key recipients of this document, along with their House counterparts. And he has said a few things, but at the same time, he seems to be sort of backing away, except being National Security Advisor. He has the same roles that some of the people are being discussed there, and so that becomes kind of interesting. Does he not know what's going on in his own National Security Council? If you see what I'm trying to say here. And yet they were trying to say that Biden's National Security Council director, actually was involved in some of this same stuff, because essentially what happened was when the Senate got this report, apparently they got pushback from the Biden administration about, not to be pursuing certain special access programs, according to Grusch. And that's why the thing kind of fizzled out. and certainly their National Security Council advisor was brought into it. So are we getting a little bit of a run around here in that sense? And I think that's kind of interesting to see. Now, Rubio has now said that um, that this has been handed off to Stephen Miller, of course, who's now the new person. And I guess since Trump felt that Miller, this is one of my joke here, okay, that Miller had the alien desk anyhow, right? It's having to do with illegal aliens, if you will. Then he decided he can also take on the space aliens too, or NHI. I guess we'll be more proper about it. So at any rate, and now Rubio said he's stepping back, and now Stephen Miller has the ball on that one. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it doesn't strike me as really a Stephen Miller type thing in a way. You know what I mean? I suppose being the deputy, chief of staff of the president, he does have the authorities and clearances where he could get into it, but he needs to read into all these things. So anyway, if you like those videos, please give me a like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, or you can also follow me on Rumble, because I post there as well. So yeah, that's kind of one of the big reveals in this thing, and because we were kind of wondering what happened to that. So it looks like there was real interaction between the National Security Council under Biden and these Senate committees, which led to not much progress. And now, the other thing that this gets into is Grusch kind of indicates more that he actually knows a lot about the things. Some of the things he's referred to seems to me to be talking about Immaculate Constellation, which, remember that when the Pentagon denied that was their program, they said that it was something, a White House program run out of the National Security Council. And then Grusch is saying, yeah, they have an ability to basically pull all this data into a common, repository that they can kind of fish it out of the data flow of intelligence information and kind of just take what they want and sort of seamlessly. Now, what's kind of interesting about that is Admiral Gallaudet talked about one of these famous videos that came out back in 17 and 18, the Go Fast video, and the people were asking him, what was this? And then the next day it disappeared off of his computer. He was at a secure computer, classified computer, and it just disappeared, which seems to be the same thing they're talking about in part, and maybe other sensor data as well that they're searching, where certain signatures of those UAPs show up, and he's mentioning that. And I don't think he ever said this stuff before at all. This is new material, and very interesting material. And so we're really, kind of, now the other biggie that comes out of this, and this one is really kind of a big one, has been the whole issue of the issue of recovery of alien craft and alien bodies, and now we're talking, he's saying, also living aliens. That in fact there have been recoveries of living aliens, and there has been communication between, I guess, representatives of the government and the aliens. And he seems to reference that some of this occurred under the supervision of what he refers to as Darth Vader, meaning a code for Dick Cheney, former vice president, who was a very influential vice president, as we'll recall. So interesting, very, very interesting. Just think about this. There's certain people out there on the other political spectrum, when the aliens came to talk to our leader, they got to talk to Dick Cheney. Huh? Anyway, I just thought that was funny. But at any rate, in fact, Dick Cheney plays an important role in me getting into this subject seriously again several years ago. Because after I read the book by Leslie Kean, and the preface of the book where, that John Podesta, a Democrat leader, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, chief of staff to Bill Clinton in the day, big time liberal, right? What was advocating for disclosure, I was saying, well, why are they not getting ridiculed by the Republicans at that? This is where I was around 2011 or so, right? And I'm saying, but they're not. Well, it occurred to me one thing I remember Dick Cheney saying. Somebody once asked him about UFOs, and he said, I've got nothing for you on that. And if I did, it would be classified. And then he kind of goes on to another subject. Interesting. and he was the big UFO kingpin at the time. Very, very interesting stuff, huh? So anyway, so so now, it appears that this, he says this communication is basically mental, or basically what we would call telepathy, which is, I think that kind of psionic abilities and stuff have been often referenced in many contactee cases or whatever, abductions or whatever. So that's not too surprising to anybody that follows this subject. It is sort of a bit surprising in the context of what we're talking about now, but as he said from his earliest interview with Coldheart, there will be some ontological shock here involved in some of it. Well, he's now releasing a little bit more of the information. I'm a little bit, how would I want to put it here? The unanswered question nobody's asking, okay, you bring down the craft, there's a living alien in it, you communicate with the alien, but what only happens with the alien? Or the NHI, what do you want to call it? That's one thing that shoe is not dropped yet. Now, if the retrieval is say, a rough retrieval and the thing crashes, maybe the alien doesn't survive the crash. There's nothing we do overtly to the alien other than bringing down the craft, of course. But, this could get, I sometimes wonder if this whole subject is part of why this thing is such a hush-hush business. And, well, anyway, I shouldn't have brought this up, but since he's pushing this far, I'll push a little further. And I don't know what's going on. Are we ongoing communication with him? Do we let ET phone home, or what? Maybe ET can phone home. We don't know. If we can psionically call a craft, maybe they can too. I'm getting a little wild here, but let me say that this has been kind of put out in the open forum now, right? And I guess, all the various UFO shows are now reacting to this too, following up on it. I saw a couple of them. But anyhow, so that's something that it looks like this subject may be breaking open a little bit here. And hopefully, Lou Elizondo apparently has some kind of position involving this stuff. So let's see how that goes. And so the other possibility, I guess, comes out of this. Do we even have some kind of ongoing contact with somebody? I don't know. Anyhow, the other thing that he does write that he's seen, I'm not sure if he actually, I think he said it means he's seen pictures of the bodies of the ones that are not living, I guess. I don't know which picture, or actually, at any rate, that's a little unclear in the interview, but because obviously it wasn't being interviewed by me, or he'd have maybe some better questions. But anyhow, but the point is that that he's seen the body, and apparently many of them are your typical gray that's been described more or less, and I guess there are other variants as well. Certainly the ones from Virginia, that they took a living alien from Virginia, according to that story, remember, if you followed that one, the one in Brazil, and of course that's a different species, I guess we'd say, different civilization. So anyhow, well, at any rate, it looks like this thing is starting to get a little bit more warm. One other thing about the video, which I was particularly reacted to, because when he mentioned the thing about in that press conference with the congressman some time back, he seemed to suggest that the orbs were like plasma beings, and I don't think that was right. And he seemed to have kind of backed away from that in this one. And I think these are these spheres that have been found in various places. Certain of them, the ones, there was one found in Texas, I know, that where it actually would roll around Ross Coldheart had that in one of his things a few years back. And I think there was an idea of getting Gary Nolan to study it. I don't know whatever came of that. But when they're actually fully energized and flying, they have a plasma, ionization field around, just like a typical UFO, like a saucer would have, So I don't think that's anything. I think I sort of suspect they may be robotic, but who knows? And he did say that some of these UAPs are robotic. They're not all inhabited. So, at any rate, that's kind of the rundown of this. I think it's a big development, and we'll have to see where it goes. I'll put a link to the interview with Dr. Phil in the description below, so anybody wants to go through. It's about an hour long, a little bit under an hour, almost an hour, and that will, if you want to get to all the details and see if I've characterized it right and all. So I'll be posting this on YouTube and Rumble as always, and the address of my social media accounts will be in the description below. So all for this time.